What up? Salvador Briggman here. Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. On this show, we talk about how to raise money successfully using crowdfunding. And I've been doing the show for a long time. I got the show started in 2015 with really the passion, the desire, the goal to help you out and really to help you when it comes to bringing on real world examples, people that are raising money every single week using crowdfunding in order to do that. And I think this is because we needed that to exist in the industry. I was getting to the point where I was sharing tactics and teachings and strategy on my blog, crowdcrux.com. And man, so people would just not believe what I was saying. And it was one of the most frustrating experiences in my life. Because I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, this stuff works. I'm talking to people behind the scenes. I'm seeing this enacted in hundreds of projects. And I'm seeing these techniques get results. And it was one of the most frustrating things. And I realized I had this aha moment, what if I actually just brought these conversations that I was happening behind closed doors, and instead I put them on a podcast for all y'all to listen to, almost like you're a fly on the wall. So you're like a fly on the wall, and maybe you're going to work, maybe you're on the subway, maybe you're cleaning your room, whatever you're trying to do, and you're listening to the show at the same time, and you're kind of upgrading your education. You're absorbing this information like a sponge, and you're able then to understand exactly what goes into a campaign, what's happening behind the scenes. So that's kind of what it was, the genesis for the show, and what's kind of led to that, incredibly, is just having hundreds of people come on the show and share exactly what works for them when it comes to raising money for a Kickstarter campaign, raising money for an Indiegogo campaign, raising money with a regulation crowdfunding campaign, doing charity fundraising, doing nonprofit fundraising. I've really just been able to get under the hood and help share that information, make it more public for you in a free fashion. So that way you can take action on this. You can move closer and faster towards your dreams. You can really reach your full potential. I think one of the most important things, and this is actually a side benefit, is that it increases confidence and it delivers a little bit inspiration. When you see other people every single week absolutely crushing it, it's like, gosh, I guess this actually is happening, right? I guess I do got to take action, man. So it kind of is a little bit of a kick in the butt in that way too. But I thank you so much for coming to the show, and I really appreciate that. So today's episode, we actually spoke with $1 million Kickstarter creator. So this is very rare, obviously, when we're able to speak with someone who's had such illustrious, incredible success in that way. They raised $1 million, over $1 million, $1,038,010 specifically off of a $500,000 goal. And they attracted more than 4,000 backers for the campaign. And believe it or not, this is exactly what I said, man. I said this on my YouTube channel. You don't know, I've got a YouTube channel. I think we got around, over 30,000 subscribers now. And I said this, that more and more people are going to be seeing publishing projects be successful on Kickstarter because Kickstarter works in waves. And so whenever you have a success, it actually makes it easier to have more successes in that particular category. So that being said, what you're going to discover on this interview is some of the different things that go into a successful campaign, what you got to do from a strategic standpoint in order to be successful, how to blow past your goal, how to really engineer this thing to be able to do a 7-figure campaign with crowdfunding. So I've tried to really distill this into a couple of golden nuggets, which you can take away. Hopefully that's useful and that's practical for you. And also at the same time, of course, man, you enjoy the story. Because what's the point of achieving and accomplishing stuff in life if you don't enjoy the process, right? If you don't enjoy the time that as you're going through the struggle, enjoy the time as you're hitting your milestones, and of course, celebrate it as well. So I hope you enjoy today's podcast episode. In addition, just 2 quick announcements. One is that if you want to learn more about how to actually launch a Kickstarter campaign, you want to discover the tactics, the strategy, the techniques that go into this process. If you want to demystify this process even further beyond this show, and you really want this delivered to you in a bite-sized manner, something you can digest, something you can kind of upgrade every single week, and really just become a student of this practice, a student of success, a student of crowdfunding. If that's something that sounds interesting to you, I got a free course for you, which you can check out at the link I'm about to mention. Just go to the link, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter. Go there and you can learn more about this free course. Just enter your name and email. You'll start getting some emails from me warming you up to how to actually do one of these suckers, how to blow past your goal. In addition, for those of you that are like, you know what, Sal, I've been listening to some of your other podcasts. You're doing an awesome job. Thank you so much. You're doing a great job. And if you found them to be useful, if you found them to be helpful, if you found them to be, in some way, you've taken away actually, tried and true practices, things that you feel like you can apply that will get you results. And that's really, at the end of the day, my goal here. If you do feel that way, if you want to go a little bit layer deeper, I do have an audiobook, which is out there. So this is really designed for people who want more of a complete experience, someone who wants to kind of get the A to Z, simplicity, if you will, of launching a campaign, want the formula behind this, kind of the paint by numbers formula, which you can just follow and kind of go through these different steps and understand exactly what goes into every stage of the process. In addition, some of the stuff that I don't talk about, honestly, on this show, that I don't talk about in my YouTube videos, some of the hidden strategies and teachings, which if you use them can get you those results that you want. And this is very hard won, battle tested, through the trenches information, which I am sharing with you on that audiobook. And I also read the book myself in my inspirational fashion. So I hope you enjoy it. If you want to grab a copy of this, you can grab a copy on Audible, and you can actually get a free copy of this if you sign up for a free 30-day trial of Audible. And you can go to this link at crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. That link is crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio, crowdcrux.com/Kickstarter audio. You can check that out there. And also, I do have a paperback version on Amazon, so you can also check out the Kickstarter launch formula on Amazon, and you will discover that. But I really like the Audible version just because you can kind of be listening to it at the same time while you're doing other stuff. That being said, let's jump into this interview. Let's discover how this $1 million creator actually got their project off the ground, and it's coming up right after this. If you're worried about the fulfillment and shipping part of your Kickstarter campaign when it comes to getting out all those perks and rewards to your backers, rest assured, I've put together a complete Kickstarter fulfillment and shipping checklist for you, and it's free. This is sponsored by the folks at Fulfillment, and they thought that you should have this checklist as part of your arsenal going into a crowdfunding campaign. If you want to get instant access to this checklist and it's free, you can go to fulfillrite.com/checklist. Again, that is fulfillrite.com/checklist. fulfillrite.com/checklist. Just go to that link and you can download it immediately. Hey guys, welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. And we have a sensational campaign on the show. This campaign has raised over $900,000 for more than 3,000 backers. And lo and behold, this is the highest funded fiction campaign in Kickstarter history for a female author. And we are privileged enough to have the individual here on the show. Sherrilyn, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here.
Definitely. If you can first start by just telling the listeners a little bit about your project, what it is you're doing, and where this came from.
Okay, well, for years now, I write the Dark Hunter series, which is a #1 New York Times bestselling fantasy series. And I have a really dedicated fan base. God bless all of them. And they've been begging me for years. I have 2 brothers that are kind of like the linchpin of the series. And my fans have been wanting me to do the hardcovers where when they came out, one of them came out 15 years ago, one came out, 10 years ago. I keep forgetting how old I am. Yeah. And when they came out independent, obviously, with that kind of gap between them. But they overlap each other because they are twin brothers. And the fans, since the day they both came out, they've wanted me to combine the 2 stories together so that they can read them. What they've been doing is going between books because, okay, this happened on that day and this happened on that day. But they're like, it really is one continuous story. And the publisher's like, well, we've got the 2 books. We don't need to do it as one. And there are stories as the series has continued on, new scenes have come up. And it's like, I should have put that in there. And other ideas that you get, because I think we're now on almost the 40th book. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah. Oh man, that would be a great scene. I should have thought of it back when. And so I'm like begging my publishers, can we do this? Can we do this? No. And finally, I wore them down enough to where, yeah, okay, you can do it. But we don't want to publish it because it's going to be a massive tome. I mean, originally, I think Ash was over 800 pages and Styxx came in at like 1,300 pages.
Mega.
So being what it is today, they're like, yeah, we're not even going to tackle this project. It's on you to do.
So tell me about the moment when you really decided to bring this to the fans, right? Through the Kickstarter campaign. Tell me about the moment when you made that decision.
Well, my son had done a couple of Kickstarters doing his comic book. We've done some hybrid publishing, independent works in the past, but because it was going to be a 4-volume set, my son's like, I think this is really going to be good for Kickstarter. And I was kind of hesitant to do it. I don't know, maybe. Okay, maybe. I was very hesitant because I've never done anything like this before. And then I've known Brandon Sanderson viscerally through different conferences and stuff. And then when Brandon did what he did, I was like, maybe we should try this.
Maybe there's something to this, right?
Yeah, right. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe they won't laugh me out of the ballpark. So Yeah, then thank you, Brandon, for giving me trust in my son. I should have listened to years ago when he told me to do it that way. So,
and when you were thinking about putting this together, right? Because it's kind of a little bit different than just like selling the book to the public. How did you think about putting this campaign together? Were you thinking about involving fans? Were you thinking about kind of dripping out content ahead of time? Like, how did you really involve your fans in this process?
I've always been very fan oriented. I try not to do anything without going to them first. God love them. I think that is what built my fan base originally. Before the very first book came out back in the 90s, we sold out. The first signing I ever did, which was, when 94, I sold out my books in 45 minutes. And I remember there was a best-selling author, sitting next to me going, oh my God, who are you? Are you somebody famous? Should I know you? But it was because I was active back then on AOL and Genie bulletin boards way back when. So I've always curried the fan base. And with Dark Hunter, we had the website. I say we, me and the characters. It's the collective we. 2 years before the very first book came out. So I had an overall sales ranking for the first Dark Hunter novels, 6 on Amazon, 10 months before the first book hit the stores. So anytime I've done anything like that, I've always gone to the fans going, okay, here's what I'm planning. You're with me, right? Right? You're not going to leave me standing in the parking lot alone.
So you kind of tell them a little bit about the project, right? Ahead of time, it sounds like.
Yes, the core fan. I didn't go out to the whole fan base, but yeah, I have like the core fan leaders, team leaders, I guess you would call them.
Okay. And then when you decided to really push the button and kind of get forward with this campaign, how long would you say it took you to really get this together and assemble it, get everything together, the video, et cetera? How long do you think that took you?
It took probably close to 8 months, all things considered. Brandon hadn't done the big one. He had done the original one that he did, where I think he did 6 million. It was before he did we had been planning it way back when. So, and then when he did the real big one, we're like, okay, we need to step this up, because I'm one of those people, I'm very hesitant about ever doing anything. If you've ever seen Santa Clarita Diet, where, buying the toaster oven, I'm that guy. It's like, hey, I've done all my research.
Is it just kind of the technology fear, or is it the putting it out there for everyone to see? Because you've had so many people read your words, right? Where do you feel like that fear comes from?
I think it's just life kicking on you. It's not really technology. I was one of the first web developers in the country. So I'm a huge embrace technology anytime I can. But it's more just, I'm like I said, I'm always afraid the fans are going to be like, no, and not come with me, because we have done some missteps over the years. Anytime you're trying to do something innovative, you do occasionally go, well, that was a bad idea,
So for you, when you're really looking at success, because I think a lot of people will see this campaign, they're like, this is mega, this is huge, right? For you as an author, how do you view success? Is it when people are deciding to back and support you? Is it when they have the book in their hands and they're loving it and sharing it? Is it seeing those metrics, raising 900K plus? Like, what is success to you?
Oh, it's that fan treasuring it more than anything else. I mean, everything I do, it's when that person comes up and goes, you know what? I was having a bad day. I read your book. It made it better. And that's what got me into writing. It's always about that one connection of anytime you get that letter, that email, or they come up to you and they're like, this book helped me. And that, to me, if I can touch that one person and help them that one time when they need it, that really is all I need.
Yeah, I mean, that's really special. And I imagine when you finally hit launch and you have all these orders that are flooding in, I think you hit your goal in the first week, right?
Oh,
what did that feel like? Was that validation? Was that a celebration? What did that feel like to really get to that point?
Relief.
Relief.
It's like, okay, we're going to do this. Oh, thank God. Yeah, I mean, because I have wanted to do this project for so long. I mean, I've literally been fighting almost a decade to do it. It was, hey, they still like them. It's been 4 years actually since we've had a Dark Hunter book out. So, and there was a part of me that was, maybe they've forgotten the series. It's been so long since we had a book. And it was very much relief that, okay, they're still here and they haven't forgotten me. Thank you, God.
Yeah. And I can imagine as well, then just that kind of relief as well, that it's going to move forward, right? The project, it's going to happen. It's going to get into their hands, right?
Yeah. And in a beautiful way, we've got the detailing and all of the book. It's just going to be an amazing product.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I love the artwork. It looks so cool as well, like the cover work and everything you have going on there. Really exciting. And I can see how it's like almost like a piece set, right? Looks really cool in that way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And we've got some amazing artists that are going to step in and do the interior illustrations for us. It's going to be amazing.
When it comes to doing this, I mean, this is your first time. You knocked it out of the park, right? The first time, which is so rare, I think, for people. Are there any things that you feel like you learned that you would want to pass on to other creatives in the audience, other people who look at you and are admiring this? Any thoughts you want to pass on in terms of what you would have improved on, done differently?
One of the things is I think we may have ran it a little too long. I think 3 weeks is probably the sweet spot, just because I really wish we had, so that we could get into the project and really get into the setting everything up. Now, there's still a lot of things that we need to do. It didn't take as long once we got all the pledges. We got the bulk of them in right at the beginning. And so now it's that eagerness. We want to go forward, and we're kind of now waiting for the last of them. And it's like, we still can't. And it's that eagerness. So I think we should have done it only for 3 weeks instead of an extra fourth week.
Yeah. I mean, also it creates urgency right there too as well. And I'm not sure if you're planning to use a pledge manager or go into Indiegogo in demand, but you could always continue to raise funds that way, right?
Exactly. Right. And I didn't know about that in the very beginning. Yeah, we're going to do backer kit, which I know exists, and it's going to be so helpful. Yeah.
So basically consider compressing the timeline, because it's hard to maintain momentum, and also you can get right to fulfilling the rewards, right? Exactly. Any other thoughts that you had as you're going through this process, or any things you wish you had known ahead of time?
One of the things that I wish I had thought ahead about was we ended up adding badges in there, and I should have done that in the very beginning instead of adding that on after the campaign started. So, and I thought I had thought through everything, but yeah, I mean, as much time as we took considering it, there's always that one more thing that make sure you don't change the campaign once you get into it. Sit there and have everything, and then stay committed to what you've done.
What do you mean by badges exactly?
For the first 4,500 backers, we're going to send them a free badge, and we should have had that in. Once it kind of confused people, because then they're like, "Am I getting the free badge?" And then we had to answer a whole bunch of emails that we wouldn't have had to answer if we'd had that ready to go. Because we hit so many so fast that we're like, "Hey, we can have an extra for everybody." We either should have done that at the very end to let them know, "Hey, after it was over, we're going to send this to you free," or we should have done it at the very beginning, because it just seemed to kind of confuse everybody.
And what's the purpose there? Is it to kind of give people like a special feeling that this is the campaign they participated in, right? That no one else is kind of getting that badge? What do you feel like the meaning is behind that?
Well, I just wanted to reward them. I mean, the whole point of this was, my whole thing is I always focus on the fans. Anything I can do once we hit the goal, I want to just put the money back into to make the experience more special to them. This was never a profit kind of thing. It was always done to make this the best it could be for them. I want them to have a very rewarding experience. I want the boxes and the books to be the best that they can be for the fans.
Got it. Makes a lot of sense. So one of the other quick questions I had for you is, going through this process, you've raised a bunch of money. You have done a bunch of other really cool things, right? When it comes to your work, you're very seasoned in that way. For you, what are you most passionate about when it comes to this? Is it the writing? Is it the creating? What do you feel like you're most passionate about when it comes to getting your entire book and works out there?
The characters, that always starts with that. There is something about, I started writing from birth. I mean, before I could even write words, I was telling stories with crayons and on my mother's walls, much to her chagrin. When you're talking about the Dark Hunters I've had since I was 18, my league series, they were my imaginary playmates. So, I mean, the series that I write go way back with me. And I've always wanted to share them. Even when I was a little kid, I'd try and explain them to people. And it's having people enjoy these beings and worlds that have lived inside me my whole life, and to see people dress like them and to have their marks tattooed on them. It's just the most incredible thing in the world to me. And it's like having people love your baby. I mean, it's so touching and it's humbling. It's just, oh my God.
Yeah, I can tell that means a lot.
Yeah.
It's almost like a little family, right? That you have as well. And
Absolutely.
like everyone knows those same characters, and you can all talk about them, and it's almost a shared experience in a strange way.
And yeah, I don't consider my fans. They're actually family to me. We come together, we have fan conventions, and it's like, I don't even really call them that, they're reunions. So we all come together and we share what's been going on when we're apart. And it's a beautiful community, I think.
One of the things I've been noticing a lot of is just more and more people who have creative pursuits like writing, for example, like yourself, are able to actually make this a real thing, right? By using Kickstarter, by using Patreon, these other services, et cetera. Do you feel like we're kind of going through a renaissance where it's easier for a writer like yourself to get an audience and stand out? Or do you feel like it's actually more competitive? I'd be curious to your thoughts on that.
It's weird because my career has now spanned almost 4 decades, 40 years. In some ways, and in some ways it's harder because there's so many voices now for you to be one that they gravitate to. I mean, back in the day when we were at conventions, it seemed like in some ways it was easier to create the fan bases than it is now. And in some ways now, because we have a global community, I don't know that I was having this discussion with my son because his first book is coming out and he's like, well, Mom, how did you get started? I'm like, well, you can't really compare back when I was doing this in the 80s to now, babe.
Yeah. It's a different world.
It's a whole different ballgame. I owe a lot to the internet back in the early days, but it's like, I had one of the first websites that had the series where you can interact with characters. No author had ever done anything like that back in the late 90s. And so, it's a whole different thing now. It's weird. And,
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, I think differences. And I think the one thing that is the same is really what you fell in love with, right? Which is just having very strong, identifiable, interesting characters, right?
Right.
That people almost want to follow them into that world.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, really do. You need to have something that they can relate to. You need to have something that's a little different, something that that piques their interest, that just forms that sense of community.
Yeah, 100%. So in looking through your campaign, first of all, I think it's really incredible, beautiful artwork. Also, what you're doing here when it comes to just bringing more people to the Kickstarter platform is incredible and insane. And being able to get more and more readers, right? That's awesome. So kudos to that. Where can people go to learn a little bit more, first of all, about your campaign? And then just have 1 or 2 more questions.
The Year of Acheron and it's Acheron is the campaign. We made it easy. So it's yearofacheron.com. Anything about my website would be mysherrilyn.com. And it's Sherrilyn. Thank you, Mom, for giving me a really hard name. SHERRILYN.com.
And for those that are listening, we have 4 more days to go right now with the campaign. So you definitely want to hop on that link as soon as you can. So in terms of just 1 or 2 more questions here, I'm really fascinated with the way that you've been able to make this work for you so well. And it's your first time, right? It sounds like you've kind of learned a lot about like how to compress things, how to make sure you keep it short, right? Keep things simple. Do you have any advice when it comes to rewards? Like anything looking back, would you have either added anything or made things simplified, or any thoughts on your reward tiers at all?
Oh, I would have definitely simplified the reward tier. I'm Southern, so we like to complicate everything. Never ask a Southerner for directions. You might enjoy the story, but you'll get confused as all get out trying to find your way. Yeah, and I would have we were trying to please everybody, which is another bad Southern trait. Yes.
And by that, do you just mean having fewer ones or having less in each one? What do you mean by simplification?
I think fewer. I think we'll have fewer tiers next time. Yeah, because we were kind of doing like the kitchen sink and let's do this and this and this. I like having a lot of things in the tiers. And I think that's a good idea. But we had so many tiers that when we first started, we did remove some tiers because I had both signed and unsigned. And as the campaign went on, I just went, okay, let's just sign all the books. That'll be easier because it was confusing. Yeah, I should have mentioned that earlier. We removed all the unsigned because it just got everybody so confused.
Yeah. I mean, I can imagine when there's so many different moving pieces as well that it can kind of get confusing, but it sounds like you've been doing such a good job with communication, posting lots of updates. You guys have like 15 updates, right? Throughout the campaign. That's great.
Right.
I see campaigns like 1 or 2. So,
well, right. And I think that's really important. As long as everybody knows what's going on, it keeps them from panicking. And I'm one of those panicky people. I think, especially once you've given money, you're like, what's going on? Hello?
Yeah.
If you don't, when you give it out to the either, it's like there's a big trust factor there going, am I going to get what I paid for? Are you sure? So yeah,
that's huge with trust. And it's almost like a story that's unfolding in and of itself is the campaign, right? And just people seeing how that's going.
Exactly. Right. And that's what we want to do with, okay, we've gone here and take pictures of we're this far and I've got a progress bar on my website so they can check and go, look, this is where I am. I'm working on it. Don't worry. You're going to get your stuff. And yeah.
Love it. Well, I'll be sure to link up the campaign in the show notes. My final question for you is speaking to someone out there who maybe is kind of getting started or this is their first or their second campaign. And we can end the show on this note. Maybe you can leave them with a word of encouragement It could be a positive quote, something you wish you knew when you got started, advice or tips, anything along those lines. And we can end on that note.
Just keep going. Never give up, never surrender is probably my favorite quote of all time. Just believe in the campaign, cross promote. I've had a lot of success with that. I'm happy to promote other people. Kickstarter is a community. Don't be afraid to reach out. I've found some good people doing that. Talked to a couple of other writers that I wouldn't have met otherwise. And I'm glad they reached out to me through Kickstarter. So just don't be afraid. Go for it.
Well said. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. And good luck with your remaining days.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast and try to really demystify the process of crowdfunding. What's happening behind the scene? How do you turn your product idea into a real product? How do you turn your passion into profit? And the fact that you're showing up every single week listening to these episodes, I think says so much about your resolve, says so much about your persistence, says so much about your dedication to really understanding this process and learning this, right? And I think that in any area of life really puts you in the position to succeed. But what I quickly realized when I started this podcast and also do my YouTube channel, do my book, my blog, crowdcrush.com, I started kickstarterforum.org, all these different resources that are designed to help. What I realized very quickly is that, my gosh, there's so many different types of products out there, so many categories out there, right? And what works in one might not work in the other. And what is great advice for one person might not be so good advice for the next person, because we have different things as well that hold us back as creators from really reaching our full potential, from being successful, from seeing the results that we want to. And sometimes that's strategic in nature. Sometimes that's about the tactics we need to employ. Some of y'all are so together and I love it. And we can just really get rock solid down into the tactics, the strategy, the techniques, the tools. Who do you need to know? What do you need to do every step of the way, and get really regimented and very specific and very efficient in that way. Other people come to me with different things that are holding them back. So we almost have to remove some of those barriers so they can actually understand why this product can actually reach an audience, so they can understand the best things about this product and sometimes even shift their perspective. So I realized I had to go deeper. And that's when I started doing my one-on-one coaching calls. And man, that took off like a rocket. And obviously I can't, do this. There's only a limited amount of time that I have in the day, but I do like to incorporate this as a part of my offering as sort of a public service and also just to help people, right? When it comes to my one-on-one coaching calls. So these are intensive coaching calls where we go through your project in an A to Z fashion, what we figure out in terms of whether or not this is even a good fit for you. We also talk about if you're already along the way, what you got to do in order to get to the next step. A lot of times there are different things that are holding you back when it comes to creative, figuring out the video, thinking about who to work with, figuring out photos and images, figuring out how to put together a great page, how to actually hype up your crowd. Some people have crowds already. Some people have done crowdfunding before. Other people come to me like, Sal, this is my first time. And it's really about designed to be a tailored experience for you and really an intensive coaching call. So you really want to come a little bit prepared. And it's great, I think, if you also listen to one or two of my podcasts already, so you have a sense of how this works. But that being said, this is something that really, if you're ready to invest in your education, if you're ready to invest in yourself, put yourself in a great position to be successful. I mean, I'm here in sunny Florida, right, in Miami. And sometimes it's actually rainy, right, in Miami as well. But one of the things that's great here is being able to go and do golf. And the first time you go and play golf and you go to the driving range, you're just kind of fumbling around. You're trying to figure it out, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, you know what? Gosh, I guess I got to get a little bit of help. So then you get one of the pros to help you and they just make a couple of the alignments, right, that you need. And all of a sudden your golf swing is so much better. And it's crazy. Just a couple of different tweaks can really send that ball in the right direction. And the same thing is true of so many areas, so many other areas in life. Whenever you're trying to learn something new, you're trying to play tennis, you hire a tennis instructor. If you're even trying to start a new business, it usually behooves you to have a lawyer at one point in time help you or be on your team or have a CPA, an accountant. Business is kind of like a team sport. So it's really about identifying the people who can help you move forward, who can help you at your particular stage. And that's really also why I love to do the one-on-one coaching calls, because I feel like that service as well is needed in our industry. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to the link I'm about to mention. You can fill out my form, a little bit of information about you, what you're trying to accomplish, your project, etc. And we can book a one-on-one coaching call as it relates to you specifically for your project. So again, go to this link at crowdcrux.com/coaching. That link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Some of the people that I work with are really students. And that's so incredible to me that people can actually learn and pick this up. And I try to make it as easy as possible. It's always a wonder to see that people are so eager to learn this process and understand the benefits of it. Other people that I talk with are like, you know what, Sal, I really just want to help with execution. And I do work selectively on one-on-one campaigns in terms of a client basis. Other people are looking for more of a hybrid kind of stature. So it really varies. But I would say that for someone who just wants to upgrade, right, when it comes to this process, that really wants to do it right, do it by the book, and also wants to understand what they have to do in order to be maximally successful, I can share a lot of that stuff on the coaching call. So finally, that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching, crowdcrux.com/coaching. Thank you so much, man. If you're listening to this on iTunes, please give me a rating and review so we got more good ones out there. If you're listening on YouTube, go and check out the iTunes version. I think actually a ton of people would really benefit from the podcast on iTunes, because if you have an Apple device, it's like so easy. Or go and check it out on Spotify. Like then you can be walking around, you can be productive, you can be listening at the same time, you can be, going down to the gym and you be doing your workout, and then also be listening and upgrading your information at the same time. Thank you so much. My name is Sal again, and I will see you next time.